Hello everyone, in this tutorial I'm gonna show you how to create the hierarchy, actually fix the hierarchy of your creatures and do it with the group after you've done it with the objects. Because I've noticed, I created that assignment for understanding the hierarchy and I used the body parts to create the hierarchy. Many of you just jumped ahead and did this with the creature that you already had without creating the groups, and that's gonna cause so many problems, and I rather just have it out of the way by fixing it and creating the groups for them, okay, and do it the right way. So I already had this tutorial about how to create the hierarchy with the groups, like right from the beginning when you didn't created the hierarchy with objects. But in this one, I'm paying attention to the cases that you have the hierarchy, but you have it with the objects. So if you have already created the hierarchy with the groups in such a way that when you click on the object that is on the top of the hierarchy, the followers of the object are not selected in the scene, and then you're good to go, okay? But if you have something like this that I have here, then you should go ahead and watch this tutorial and fix it and create the hierarchy with the groups, okay? So look at your outliner. These are the signs of objects, meshes, okay? When I create a group, let's say Control G, I click on this object and hit Control G. So this is a group, okay? These are the only objects that should have these plus signs next to them. If in your scene you have something like this, when objects are grouped underneath each other, then you need to go ahead and fix it with me here, okay? I talked about the problems that it's going to be caused if you have it with the hierarchy of body parts. You cannot freeze transformation on everything. You need to go start from down of the hierarchy when you want to create the UVs. When you select on the objects, other objects that are underneath the hierarchy is going to be selected with it. So it is not a good practice, and it's going to cause problems along the way. So that's why you need to fix that, okay? So I just created this here. This is basically from the assignment that was for understanding the hierarchy. So I created the hierarchy with the objects. Let's see how can I make this hierarchy into groups, okay? So I'm gonna start from the lowest level of my hierarchy. So here I have hand, right? So to group it, it's easy. We talked about this. So you hit Control G on your keyboard to group it. But because I don't want to go in and just rename the groups, type in the names, I'm just going to double click on the object if you have named the object, and do Control C to copy the name. Just click on it. Now I'm going to do Control G to group. And to rename the group, I'm gonna start by gr as group underscore and then paste in the name, okay? So now this hand is in a hierarchy and I can move it using this group. But groups, like any other thing that is created in Maya, is gonna have its pivot point at the center of the project. But you can just fix this by matching the pivot point of the group that you just created to the object that you have already set the pivot point, okay? So you first click on the object and make sure you're in the move mood manipulator. If you W, it's gonna show you that, because then you can see where the pivot point is, okay? So you select the group, Control select the object, and then you do modify, freeze, match pivot, match transformation, and match pivots, okay? Now if I click on this group, the pivot point is right there. There is also, so I just wanted to show you this. If there's this in the shelf in the shelf section of Maya, you can see this custom shelf. This is where you can put your tools that you use the most. And the way to do it is simply just, for example, if I want to put in the match pivot function here, I'm just going to hold down Control Shift on my keyboard. If you're on a Windows machine, if you're on Mac, I think it would be Command Shift. I'm just guessing. This is a muscle memory for me, so I'm not sure. I'll try both of them, okay? If you're on a Mac machine. So I'm gonna do Control Shift and just click on Match Pivots. It's not gonna do anything, but you can see it brought it up here for me, so I can always just click on this whenever I want to do this. And you can do it with all the tools that you can see here, okay? Anything that you use the most, you can just stack them in a custom shelf. So this is handy. We're gonna start by, okay, I can see that when I click on this forearm, the hand group, the hand is selected with it. That's not what I want because this is a separate mesh. So what I do, I'm just gonna double click, Control C to copy the name, click on the object, Control G for grouping, and then renaming it to GR_, Control V for the name. And the next thing would be to match the pivot point. And also, you can see here that still when I select this arm, the hand group is going to be selected with it. So what I need to do now is I need to drag this group under the group of forearm instead of the object, okay? So just group this one object underneath itself so I can select it from the scene individually, okay? So I'm gonna middle click, drag under the forearm group, and now if I select on the forearm object, this is not gonna be selected with it, but when I wanna rotate the forearm, I'm just gonna use the group. The pivot point of the group as you create it is going to be right there. So what you can do here is you're going to select on the forearm group, select on the select the forearm object, and you can use your tool in the custom menu, if custom shelf, if you created this, and say match pivot. Okay. So the order of selection, as I told you before, is important in Maya. Okay, so when you want to match the pivot point of objects, the last object that you select is the object that, it's going to be defining the pivot point that all the other objects are going to be matched to. Okay. So you're gonna, you know what the rest is. So you do the same for everything. Arm, double click, Control C to copy the name, Control G to group it, and then rename GR_, Control V, hit enter, and drag the group that is underneath it, and you just fixed, drag it out of the arm object and put it under the arm group. Okay, this is just a group because it allows you to move the objects without all the children of the objects be selected with it. You can see that if I click on the arm now, not all the objects are going to be selected with it. Now would be only the matter of matching the pivot point. So I'm going to select the group, Control select the arm, and do match pivot. Okay. So yeah, that's the whole thing about fixing the group. So you do this until you're able to select the objects from the scene without the hierarchy of objects underneath it selected. Okay, fix everything. So at the end, you should have everything in a group. Like this hip object, this needs to go in a group. Everything needs to be in a group. Okay. Even if there's just one object, you need to group it. Why? Because you don't want to get this plus minus sign beside an object, okay? So have fun fixing your hierarchy with the group. It's gonna make your life easier in the long run. And yeah, that was all.